What up, YouTube? Welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Jared, as always joined by Kelly, and today we'll be reacting to Napoleon 1813, The Road to Leipzig by Epic History.
And thanks, guys, for following with us with the Napoleonic series. So we're interested to see what this one will bring. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Let's get into the video.
(1812) had been a disastrous year for Napoleon. His invasion of Russia had led to the almost total destruction of an army of 500,000 men. Now Poland and Germany were wide open to Russian attack. Some advised Emperor Alexander that this was the time to make a favourable peace with Napoleon. Russia's own armies had been mauled and Western Russia devastated. But Alexander was determined to see Napoleon defeated for good, to free Europe from his clutches, and avenge Moscow's destruction by taking Paris.
Alexander's the one that Napoleon kissed and then he got with his sister, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
I think so.
So he's pissed at Napoleon.
Allies were deserting him. Prussian troops had already agreed a truce with the Russians. Schwarzenberg's corps marched back to Austria, which assumed a policy of watchful neutrality. Napoleon had left Marshal Murat in charge of the remnants of the army, but he left for the Kingdom of Naples, hoping to cut a deal with the Allies that would let him keep his throne. He was replaced by Napoleon's stepson Eugene, who'd proved himself a brave and able soldier in Russia, but was unused to independent command, and now faced odds of 4-1. As Russian forces advanced through Poland, he continued to retreat west, leaving garrisons to hold strategic fortresses, most of which were soon besieged. On the 7th of February, Russian troops entered Warsaw unopposed. Napoleon's Polish client state, the Duchy of Warsaw, effectively ceased to exist. 3 weeks later, Russian troops entered Berlin, while Sweden joined the Allies. Sweden was ruled by Napoleon's former Marshal Bernadotte, now officially known as Crown Prince Karl Johan. Many would accuse him of betraying Napoleon, but he'd always been clear that
It's just not a guy you want to betray, Napoleon.
No.
Yeah, this guy's in for he's in for
once
it.
he became Sweden's crown prince, he'd pursue Swedish interests, which is what he now claimed to do. In exchange for Norway, to be taken from France's ally Denmark, and £1 million from Britain, Bernadotte agreed to join what was now the 6th coalition against France since the Revolution, with an army of 30,000 troops. 10 days later, King Frederick William of Prussia declared war on France. It followed weeks of indecision. The king was widely seen as a weak character and terrified of Napoleon. But with guarantees of Russian military support, the return of lost territory, and enormous financial and material aid from Britain, he agreed to field an army of 80,000 men. On the 17th of
Napoleon loses one battle and now everybody thinks that they could take him down. He's vulnerable.
March, he issued a proclamation to the people of Prussia and Germany, "An mein Volk," to my people, summoning them to fight for Prussia and Germany's honor, in what would soon be known as the German War of Liberation. The Prussian army had been greatly reformed since its humiliating defeat to Napoleon in 1806. A military commission headed by General von Scharnhorst had sacked nearly 200 old generals and abolished flogging, expanded recruitment, and introduced exams.
Flogging. Do you know what that means?
Flogging?
Flogging.
I don't know what that means.
What
Do you?
does flogging mean? No.
Don't know what flogging means. So if you guys know, let us know down in the comments.
For officers, and overhauled training, tactics and drill. When Napoleon met the new Prussian army in battle 2 months later, he remarked, "These animals have learned something." Small consolation, they'd learned most of it from him. This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream, home of more than 2,500 online...
We getting paid for this ad?
exploring science, technology, the natural world, and of course, history. This month we've been watching a French documentary about that other great warrior son of France, William the Conqueror. William is famed for his bloody victory over the English at Hastings in 1066. But here we also learn about William's early life in Normandy, his loving marriage, and the long
Promo code
struggle
Epic
to acquire his
History
English
for 30
kingdom.
days off. 30 days free. That's a good deal.
The reconstructions are high quality, the experts are insightful, and William the Conqueror gets a thumbs up from us.
I wonder what they
There are many other
fit
high-end documentaries
all in
like this waiting to inform and entertain you
Legit just
at
not-
A
CuriosityStream.
lot of epic history
available
fans on this
worldwide.
channel that I'm sure
Online subscription
would love to subscribe to this.
$2.99 a month. Remember to use the
not
promo
bad.
That's
code
not bad.
Epic History TV at sign up to get your first 30 days free. Thanks to CuriosityStream for sponsoring this video.
Thanks, CuriosityStream. Appreciate it. The man is vulnerable right now. People are coming for him.
Enemies massed in Germany.
Shut.
Napoleon was in Paris, working tirelessly to build a new army with which to face them. 137,000 new conscripts joined the army, and laws passed to call up 100,000 more, while 40,000 veterans from the army in Spain, 16,000 Marines, and 80,000 men of the National Guard, a home defense force, were transferred to Germany. The new conscripts were nicknamed Marie-Louises, after Napoleon's young wife, who'd passed the new conscription laws in his absence. They were young and raw. 2/3 were teenagers, and there was a severe lack of experienced officers and NCOs. In short, the countless irreplaceable veterans now lying beneath Russian soil. There was also a critical shortage of cavalry, a crisis mocked by British satirists. It would take Napoleon longer to replace the many thousands of horses and
The Cossacks. I still don't know what the Cossacks are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Someone let us know.
trained horsemen who'd perished in Russia. When Napoleon left Paris for Germany in mid-April, the French situation was precarious. Eugene had been forced back behind the river Elbe to the fortified city of Magdeburg. Dresden, the capital of Saxony, had fallen to the Prussians. The Duchy of Mecklenburg-Schwerin became the first German state to defect from Napoleon's Confederation of the Rhine. Russian Cossacks raided as far as Hamburg, inspiring local revolts against French occupation.
I feel like the Cossacks are probably just the people that are fighting for Russia. That's what I'm guessing, but I'm not 100% sure.
Forces. Meanwhile, Austria stood on the sidelines, so far declining to back either side. Napoleon's miraculous feat of organization meant he now had more than 200,000 troops in Germany. And the Emperor's personal magnetism was undimmed. The morale of his army was high. The Russians, on the other hand, lost their iconic commander, Field Marshal Kutuzov, to pneumonia on the 28th of April. His role was taken over by General Wittgenstein. Russian troops were exhausted and far from home, their army weakened by the need to contain French garrisons across Poland and Germany. Prussia and Sweden had yet to fully mobilize their strength, and Allied forces barely mustered 100,000 men. They were now heavily outnumbered by Napoleon, and the French Emperor decided to strike quickly. He ordered Marshal Davout to Hamburg with 35,000 men to secure his northern flank. He would march against the Russian and Prussian forces converging on Leipzig to force a decisive battle. Victory would make Austria think twice about joining the Allies, allow him to rescue the 90,000 men trapped in garrisons across Germany and Poland, and re-establish his dominance over Europe. As Napoleon advanced on Leipzig, the Allies faced a predicament: to risk battle against Napoleon's larger army, or give up Germany without a fight, a potentially devastating blow to Allied morale and any chance of winning Austria over to their cause. Allied headquarters made the bold decision to attack. They knew most of Napoleon's army was made up of raw conscripts, that their own troops were better trained and had a great superiority in cavalry and artillery. The Allies agreed that as Napoleon crossed the Saale River, they would hit his right flank before he could concentrate the full mass of his forces. The two armies were on a collision course, but Napoleon's shortage of cavalry meant he lacked information about Allied movements. On the 1st of May, Marshal Bessières, commanding the cavalry in Murat's absence, was carrying out reconnaissance himself when he was hit by a cannonball and killed instantly. Bessières was the second of Napoleon's marshals to be killed in action, and like Lannes, an old comrade and trusted friend.
That's tough.
Were able to surprise Napoleon, falling on Marshal Ney's Third Corps near Lutzen. Ney's troops had to cling on in the face of a Russian and Prussian onslaught, while Napoleon rapidly redirected his other corps to fall on the enemy's flanks. At one stage, Napoleon had to personally help rally routing troops as they broke in the face of determined Prussian assaults. But on the whole, his young conscripts fought with courage. And despite hours of savage fighting, Wittgenstein could not exploit his early advantage. As French reinforcements arrived, the battle turned against him. Towards dusk, the Allies were forced to break off the engagement, though they'd inflicted around 22,000 casualties, losing just half as many men. General von Scharnhorst, mortally wounded, was among them. Crucially, Napoleon's lack of cavalry meant he was unable to pursue the enemy, who retreated in good order. Expecting the Prussians to fall back on Berlin, Napoleon sent Marshal Ney in pursuit, while he continued east. But the Allied army stayed together, withdrawing to a defensive position at Bautzen, deliberately close to the Austrian border, hoping to entice Schwarzenberg to intervene, and daring Napoleon to violate Austrian neutrality. Neither happened. Instead, Napoleon ordered Ney to swing south to fall on the Allies' northern flank, while he launched a frontal assault to pin them in place.
Here he comes. Never count this man out.
The battle lasted 2 days, as French infantry struggled forward against the Prussian and Russian lines. But a misunderstanding over Ney's orders caused a delay that allowed the Allies to narrowly escape Napoleon's trap. Once more, the Allies fought with great determination and inflicted many more losses than they suffered. There were more casualties during the pursuit, including the next day General Duroc, Grand Marshal of the palace, responsible for Napoleon's personal arrangements, and his closest surviving friend. Riding with Napoleon's staff, a freak cannon shot ricocheted off a tree and disemboweled him.
Napoleon's got a lot of homies that will just ride and die for him.
Yeah.
Literally ride and die for him. So they're all just getting knocked off, but Napoleon is staying alive, man. I mean, it's tough to take him down.
His slow, painful death deeply upset Napoleon. The Emperor continued his pursuit to Breslau, once again hindered by his lack of experienced cavalry, while Oudinot was sent north to take Berlin, but was held at Luckau by von Bülow's Prussian corps. On the 2nd of June, with both sides strained to breaking point, neutral Austria proposed a ceasefire, which, to the surprise of many, Napoleon accepted. The armistice of Plaswitz would last more than 2 months, a period of intense...
I don't know what that means exactly. My star is setting. Let us know if you know what that means. It's an interesting message.
His powers are going up. I don't know.
Oh, I think that could be it. I think that could be
It's
it.
a wild guy.
intense diplomacy and military mobilization by both sides. Napoleon wanted time to rebuild his cavalry, a shortage of which had allowed the Allies to escape twice. But he also wanted to keep Austria on side, which he feared might join the Allies with 200,000 troops, even though Emperor Francis I was now his father-in-law, since Napoleon's marriage to his daughter Marie-Louise in 1810. Austrian Foreign Minister Clemens von Metternich, who'd become one of 19th century Europe's most influential statesmen, now took centre stage. Metternich wanted peace and to see Austria restored as a great European power, which meant Napoleon contained, but not crushed, which would hand too much power to Russia. In June, he travelled to Dresden to ask Napoleon to make concessions, while promising the Allies that if he did not, Austria would join them. But Napoleon dismissed Metternich's terms out of hand. He would not return the Illyrian provinces to Austria, agree to the repartition of Poland, or the breakup of the Confederation of the Rhine. All were out of the question. Napoleon famously threw his hat to the ground in fury. "Peace and war lie in your Majesty's hands," Metternich is said to have warned him. "Today you can still make peace. Tomorrow it may be too late." But Napoleon preferred war to what he called a humiliating peace. On the 12th of August 1813, Austria joined the Sixth Coalition and declared war on France. The Allies now had a numerical advantage of 3-2, and a new strategy, the Trachenberg Plan. Recognizing Napoleon's genius, the Allies would avoid battle with the Emperor and instead target his marshals, threaten his flanks, and wear down French forces, until it was time to close in for the kill. Over the next few months, the coalition would also receive massive material support from Britain, including £8 million in silver and gold coin, 200 cannon with transport, 120,000 firearms, 18 million rounds of ammunition, 23,000 barrels of gunpowder, 30,000 swords and sabres, 150,000 uniforms, 175,000 pairs of boots, £1.5 million of beef, biscuit and flour, and 28,000 gallons of rum and brandy. The total
yeah, definitely gonna need that. I mean, what else do you really need?
in 1813
Off of that
was
list.
£11.3 million.
Pretty much it.
Today, worth around $500 million. Napoleon, meanwhile, had turned Dresden into a major supply depot and strengthened his cavalry arm.
Alright, this is gonna sound stupid, but I like don't know. Were they like going? Were they drunk during this? If like, were they fighting drunk? Does anybody know?
I'm sure they had some long nights. I mean,
like, not just hungover, but like drinking during the.
probably not during the battles, but like I'm sure when they're in their shelter later at night, like they need a couple drinks to get through this. No doubt. What?
Okay.
Makes sense.
Though it remained a pale shadow of its glorious past. Murat returned to lead it, his secret approach to the Allies having been rebuffed. But when news arrived of King Joseph's disastrous defeat to Wellington's Anglo-Spanish-Portuguese army at the Battle of Vittoria, Napoleon had to send Marshal Soult, one of his best commanders, to salvage the situation. On the 15th of August, Napoleon left Dresden and advanced against what he considered the most urgent threat: the joint Prussian-Russian army of Silesia,
Like ends up somewhere.
commanded by General Gebhard von Blücher,
Always on the move.
soon to win the nickname Marshal Vorwärts, Marshal Forwards, for his aggressive leadership. But Blücher followed the new plan and retreated when he learned of Napoleon's advance. Napoleon then received news from Marshal Saint-Cyr, holding Dresden with 20,000 men, that Schwarzenberg's gigantic army of Bohemia was approaching, and the city and its supplies were in danger. Napoleon left Marshal MacDonald to keep an eye on Blücher, and raced back to Dresden, sending Van Damme's First Corps to threaten Schwarzenberg's communications. By the time the Allied assault began, enough reinforcements had arrived to fight off the attack. The next day, despite being heavily outnumbered, Napoleon ordered a counterattack. Struggling through mud and heavy rain, Marshal Murat's advance, supported by Victor's Second Corps, broke the Allied left flank and took 13,000 prisoners. The Allies had suffered a disastrous defeat because they'd ignored their own rule: don't take on Napoleon in battle. But news soon arrived that turned the situation on its head. Marshal Oudinot had resumed his advance on Berlin with 66,000 men, but in 3 days of heavy combat around Grossbeeren, he was defeated by Bernadotte's Army of the North. Some of the most savage fighting was between Napoleon's Saxon allies and von Bülow's Prussians, two German states that for now remained on opposing sides. 3 days
Savages.
later, at the Katzbach
Savages.
River, Blücher inflicted a crushing defeat on Marshal MacDonald, driving some French troops into the river itself. MacDonald lost 30,000 men, 3 Eagles and 100 guns, for Blücher's 22,000 casualties. 3 days after Napoleon's victory at Dresden, as Van Damme's corps pursued the Allies, it became trapped in wooded valleys around Kulm and was overrun. General Van Damme himself was dragged from his horse by Cossacks, as he and 10,000 of his men were made prisoner. Napoleon sent Ney to take over from Oudinot, who engaged Bülow's Prussian corps at Dennewitz. The Prussians, fighting to save Berlin, held their own until Russian and Swedish reinforcements arrived to turn the battle decisively in the Allies' favour. Ney's retreat became a rout, with the loss of another 22,000 men. Napoleon's brilliant victory at Dresden had been completely overturned in just 10 days. The Allied plan was working. Napoleon became increasingly frustrated as Allied armies withdrew wherever he advanced, and advanced wherever he was not. His teenage conscripts were exhausted by constant...
A lot of his friends are starting to die, so he's like losing people to be in certain places for him, so everyone knows exactly where he's at, and wherever he's not, he doesn't have as much backup, which is tough.
Yeah.
So they're starting to figure him out.
marching.
Right.
And famished as Saxony had been stripped bare of supplies. Thousands fell sick, thousands more deserted. Russian and Prussian light troops were now operating behind Napoleon's army, harassing his communications with France. Many of Napoleon's marshals advised him to pull back to the River Rhine. But Napoleon wasn't giving up Germany without a fight.
Everywhere you go, Napoleon.
He's just trying to chip away at these
1830.
little battles.
Napoleon faced a third of a
down to
million
Dresden,
Allied troops in
onto
Germany,
Leipzig.
converging on him from 3 directions. 900 miles away, Field Marshal Wellington was crossing the Bidassoa River into France, the first enemy army on French soil in nearly 20 years. While the Kingdom of Bavaria, a French ally since the days of Austerlitz, had secretly agreed to switch sides and would declare war on France on the 14th of October. Napoleon planned to defend the line of the River Elbe. But the arrival of General Bennigsen's reserve Russian army freed up Blücher, who suddenly marched to join forces with Bernadotte and forced his way across the Elbe at Wartenberg. Napoleon went north with 150,000 men, seeking the decisive battle that would change his fortunes. But once more, Blücher narrowly escaped him. Then came news from Murat, who'd been left with 67,000 men to cover Schwarzenberg. The enemy had bypassed Dresden and was heading for Leipzig. If the city fell, Napoleon would be cut off from France. Once more, he was advised to fall back to the Rhine. But instead, Napoleon ordered all his forces to concentrate at Leipzig. He would risk everything in one great battle to decide the fate of his empire and the fate of Europe. Thank you to all our patrons.
Wow. Napoleon he's making a comeback. You know, he fell to Russia in the last video. And he's trying to chip away. You know, it's like when you're gambling, you lose a ton of money. You don't want to double down and, you know, go double or nothing and lose all of it again. Try to chip away slowly but surely and try to get your money back. That's kind of what Napoleon is doing. He's trying to get some confidence. He's trying to win a couple battles here and there to kind of make up for losing that ground to Russia, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think he's a coward.
Yeah. I mean, and he's just getting exposed at this point. All of his friends are starting to die. He doesn't really have, he just doesn't have as much support right now. So, it's tough. He's battling, but I don't know how this is going to turn out.
Yeah,
So.
I was just gonna say because I don't know anything about this, so I have no idea how this is gonna end.
No, we have no clue what's about to happen. So
I don't even know how he dies. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, this is all going to be a surprise to us, but to the people watching out there, I'm sure you're familiar with this. There's a lot of Napoleon history fans out there, so stick with us as we move on to the next video. But Thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check out our other videos as well. If there's anything else you'd like us to react to, just let us know down in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time.